Lieutenant Ethan Ward stood at the edge of the landing ramp, staring into the thick green jungle of Arakan 7. The air was hot and wet. A thin mist floated just above the plants. The sky was a deep purple, and twin suns glowed behind thin clouds. His mission was clear, but his heart beat faster than usual. "Distress signal confirmed," said the ship's AI in a calm voice. "Signal originates from Zeral Hive Nest 9. Warning, nursery chamber oxygen levels critical." Ethan checked his gear again. Breathing mask, oxygen tanks, emergency torch, signal flares, data scanner. He had trained for emergencies, but this was different. This wasn't a fire or a crash. This was a hive full of alien younglings, tiny Zeral infants and their queen. And the gas leak was still spreading. Ethan stepped into the jungle. Vines brushed against his boots. Bright insects buzzed near his helmet. He moved quickly, but carefully. His map showed the hive was less than a kilometer away. After 20 minutes, he found the entrance. A massive spiral-shaped tunnel made of smooth, bone-like material, built into the side of a rocky hill. The outer guards, giant insect-like workers, lay motionless. Their shells were glossy and green, but their limbs were still. "Already affected," Ethan whispered. He knelt down and scanned one of them. No life signs. He frowned. This gas wasn't just poisonous, it was spreading fast. Ethan entered the hive. Inside, the air was heavy. A strange, sweet-smelling gas floated in thin layers along the floor. His mask's filters beeped, already straining. The walls of the hive pulsed slowly, as if alive. Glowing lines of biolight lit the tunnels in soft blue. The deeper he went, the more silence he found. Zeral hives were usually full of sound, clicks, hums, movement. But here, it was like a graveyard. Ethan reached the central tunnel leading to the nursery chamber. A soft wind pushed against him, the gas. He paused. "This is where I suit up fully," he said to himself. He put on his sealed helmet, switched oxygen to internal tank, and turned on his suit's cooling system. Then he moved forward, step by step. The nursery chamber was large and round, like a dome made of pearl. Dozens of egg pods were attached to the floor and walls. They pulsed with light, each holding a young life inside, but the chamber was full of gas. It swirled around the eggs like a ghostly fog. Some of the eggs had gone dark. Ethan's heart sank. In the center of the room lay the queen. She was huge, at least 5 meters long, with a long silver carapace and 6 folded legs. Her wings were torn. Her antennae twitched weakly. She turned her head slowly toward him. Ethan stopped. "Lieutenant Ward," he said clearly. "I'm here to help." Of course, she didn't speak human words, but Ethan had studied the Zeral. Their queens were telepathic. They could share thoughts. He lowered his scanner. Suddenly, a sharp sensation filled his mind. Not pain, but a strong feeling, fear, panic, worry. The queen was afraid. She was trying to protect the eggs, but she was too weak. Her mental control over the hive systems was fading. She could not filter the air or seal the cracks. Ethan moved closer, carefully. He showed her his tools. He pointed to the air purifier tank he had carried on his back. It was small, but powerful. If he could connect it to the hive's airways, it might clean the gas long enough for the eggs to survive. The queen's antennae flicked. She moved one leg, slowly, pointing toward a nearby wall. A small opening appeared, shaped like a star. Ethan walked over and looked inside. It was a vent, part of the hive's natural air system. "Good," Ethan whispered. "I can work with this." He pulled the purifier from his pack and began linking tubes. He opened his toolkit and used a laser cutter to fit a seal. Sweat dripped down his back. The gas was eating through his mask filter faster than expected. The purifier hummed to life. A small blue light blinked. Fresh air began to push into the chamber. Ethan turned back toward the queen. Her eyes were half closed. The fog inside the room was slowly clearing. Then his scanner beeped loudly. Warning, pressure rising. Gas leak, increasing. Ethan cursed under his breath. The pipeline must have broken even more. He opened his map again and traced the pipeline. A nearby section ran just beneath the nursery floor. "If it breaks through here," he said, "the eggs won't survive, and I won't either." He had to act quickly. He moved toward the base of the nursery, where the hive floor met the earth. He scanned for weak spots. Finally, he found a crack, a thin line of wet, dark liquid leaking through. He pulled out his foam sealant pack. It was made for spacewalks, but it might work here. He sprayed the foam into the crack. It hissed and spread, hardening as it filled the gap. The pressure alert dropped a little. Just then, he heard something behind him. The queen had lifted her head. She looked at him again, and Ethan felt a different message in his mind. Calm. Trust. She knew he was trying. Ethan turned back to the purifier. It was still working, but the filter was glowing red, almost full. He took a deep breath, then opened his last backup tank. He removed the top filter and placed it inside the purifier, bypassing the warning system. "Come on," he said. "Hold together, just a little longer." The new filter kicked in. The gas cleared more quickly now. The eggs began to glow brighter. Some even wiggled. Ethan smiled behind his mask. Then everything went dark. Everything was dark. Ethan could not move at first. His body felt heavy. His head pounded. Then, slowly, light returned. He opened his eyes. His helmet was cracked, and his oxygen system had shut down. But he was alive. He touched his chest. His suit was still sealed. That had saved him. But he had passed out from low oxygen after working too hard and breathing too fast. The backup tank had run dry. Ethan sat up slowly. The gas was mostly gone now. The purifier had worked. The air inside the nursery chamber was much clearer. His scanner showed low levels of poison, still dangerous, but better than before. The eggs were glowing again. Some moved slightly, showing signs of life. And the queen, she was watching him. Her long head was lifted. Her eyes, deep and black, followed him carefully. Her wings moved a little. She was stronger now. Ethan gave a small wave. "Still here?" he whispered. He reached into his pack and took out a tiny oxygen booster. He attached it to the side of his mask. It wasn't much, but it would help him breathe for a little while longer. He needed to check the purifier first. Crawling to the wall vent, he examined the device. It was still running, but the new filter was already yellow. That meant the gas was still leaking from below. The foam patch had helped but not sealed the pipeline completely. "If this keeps up, I'll run out of air and the eggs still won't survive," he said. He looked at the queen. She tilted her head and touched the ground gently with one leg. Then he felt it again, a wave of emotion in his mind. This time it was not fear. It was memory. A picture flashed in his thoughts, the layout of the hive tunnels. A deeper chamber, another airflow point, one closer to the source of the gas. Ethan blinked. "You're showing me the way." The queen's antennae twitched as if answering yes. He quickly downloaded the memory image into his scanner. There was a narrow tunnel that led under the nursery, right above the old pipeline. If he could reach it, he might be able to stop the leak at the source, but it was risky. The deeper tunnel had no light, no air system, no support, and it hadn't been touched in years. If he went in, he might not come back out. Still, he had no choice. "All right," he said. "I'll go." Before he left, Ethan placed a second emergency purifier near the queen. It was smaller, but it could keep her and the eggs alive longer if things got worse again. He gave her one last look. "Protect them. I'll be back." She bowed her head slowly. Then Ethan entered the dark tunnel. The tunnel was narrow and steep. It felt more like a cave than a hallway. The walls were cold and covered in strange, soft material. He used his helmet light to guide the way. His steps echoed quietly. The silence was strange. Too quiet, too still. After walking for 10 minutes, his scanner beeped. Gas source. Close. He stopped at a split in the tunnel. One path led to the surface. The other sloped deeper into the earth toward the old mining pipeline. He chose the second path. Soon he found the leak. A thick metal pipe, broken and rusted, was jutting out from a rock wall. Green gas hissed from the crack, spraying into the air. The poison was old but strong. It came from a forgotten human mining system from decades ago, before humans and Zeril became allies. Someone messed up badly, Ethan said, shaking his head. He scanned the pipe. The pressure was still building. If he didn't close the pipe soon, it might burst completely and destroy the lower hive. Ethan opened his pack again. He had one emergency fusion patch left. It was a special tool. Hot, fast, and powerful. It could melt into the metal and seal the crack, if he placed it right. He took careful aim. Then, using a small grab arm tool, he pressed the patch against the pipe. It glowed red, hissed, and sealed. The gas stopped flowing. Ethan let out a long breath. Got it. But just as he turned to leave, the tunnel shook. The ground cracked. A large chunk of rock dropped behind him, blocking the way. Ethan was trapped. No, he muttered. He tapped on his comms. Hive Queen, can you hear me? There was no answer. He tried again. Still nothing. His heart raced. The oxygen booster was nearly empty. He had only minutes left. Ethan sat down and looked around. Then he noticed something. Air. A soft breeze touched his neck. He turned toward the wall and found a thin gap, a tunnel. He pushed his way through. It was a crawl space, barely big enough to move, but it led upward. He kept crawling, his arms sore, his legs shaking. Rocks scraped his suit. His light flickered. His breath was getting short. But then, light. He pushed through the final stretch and rolled out onto the nursery floor again. He was back. The Queen was waiting. She stepped toward him, moving slowly but with purpose. Her body was no longer shaking. The eggs glowed bright behind her. New life was returning to the hive. Ethan removed his helmet and gasped for air. The purifier had cleaned the room enough to breathe again. Not perfect, but safe. The Queen reached out one leg and touched his shoulder. And then, something new filled his mind. Not fear, not panic. A word. Thank you. It wasn't spoken. It was thought, shared between minds. Ethan's eyes widened. You spoke to me? The Queen blinked. Another thought came. You saved the young. You saved the future. Ethan didn't know what to say. He had trained for danger, not for this. She turned and looked at the eggs, then back at him. You will not be forgotten. Then deep within the hive, a pulse of soft blue light ran through the walls. The Queen had regained control of the hive's systems. Air was flowing normally again. Temperature was stable. The hive was healing. Ethan leaned back and smiled. His mission was complete, but deep inside he knew. This was only the beginning. Ethan sat quietly in the center of the nursery chamber. His oxygen mask lay beside him now. The air was clean. The light from the egg pods glowed warm and soft. It was calm, peaceful, even beautiful. He looked around the chamber and smiled. I really didn't think I'd make it back, he whispered. The Queen stood nearby. She was still weak, but her strength was returning quickly. Her long silver limbs moved with slow grace. Her wings were whole again. A soft hum came from deep within her body. It was the sound of life returning to the hive. Ethan checked his scanner. All readings showed improvement. Oxygen levels stable, toxin levels low, hive temperature normal. The emergency purifiers were still running, but the Queen had reconnected the hive's natural systems. She was healing her home. He felt a small tug in his mind. Another thought came through, not like before. This one was gentle, slow, and full of meaning. Come. Ethan stood up, curious. The Queen walked to a wide tunnel leading away from the nursery. She turned and looked back at him. Her eyes glowed like stars. He followed. The tunnel was smooth and warm, lit by soft blue lights inside the walls. Strange patterns decorated the ceiling. Circles, lines, stars. They looked like a story. Ethan stared at them as he walked. They came to a large chamber shaped like a flower, with 5 walls that curved upward like petals. In the middle of the room stood a glowing pillar made of crystal and bone. Around it floated hundreds of tiny lights. The queen moved to the pillar and touched it. Ethan watched in wonder as the lights swirled, showing pictures, moving memories in the air. He saw the early days of the hive, the first queen building her, chambers laying the first eggs, then the wars, flames, smoke, death, then peace again. The hive grew strong. The queen before him was young in the memory, standing beside her own mother. Ethan's breath caught as he realized what he was seeing. "This is your history," he whispered. The queen turned to face him. Her voice entered his mind again. "You saved the young. You restored breath to the dying. That cannot be repaid with words alone." Ethan looked confused. "I wasn't looking for a reward. I just did what I had to." She stepped closer. Her antennae twitched softly. A deep warmth filled Ethan's thoughts, not just from her but from the hive around him. "You are different," she said. "Human, yet not like the others." Ethan lowered his eyes for a moment. He remembered what the humans had done on this planet years ago. Mining without care. Leaks. Damage. Many aliens had died then. No one had returned to fix it, until now. He met her gaze again. "Maybe we can do better. Maybe I can help more." The queen moved slowly around the glowing pillar. The lights followed her, dancing in her shadow. "The hive is weak. Many warriors are gone. I am the last queen here. Without help, this hive will fade in time." Ethan's chest tightened. "But the eggs? They'll grow, right?" She paused. "Yes, but they need more. The Zero breed with legacy." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Legacy?" She stepped closer again. Her voice became clearer in his mind. "In our kind, strong acts carry through the blood. When one saves the hive, their essence becomes part of the next generation." Ethan's heart skipped. "You mean, like a genetic gift?" The queen nodded. "You saved the future. Now your strength must become part of it." Ethan froze. "You want to include my genes in the next generation?" He tried to keep his voice steady. He wasn't afraid, but he was shocked. The queen nodded again. "Not mating, not union. This is honor. The hive mothers will use your DNA to shape the minds of the next generation. Your logic, your bravery, your will to protect. It will live on." Ethan slowly sat down on one of the stone-like benches near the wall. He never thought something like this would happen. He had saved lives before, but this was more than thanks. This was legacy. The future of another species shaped by him, a human outsider. "Are you sure?" he asked quietly. The queen stepped forward and placed her hand-like limb gently on his shoulder. He felt her warmth, not just on his skin but in his thoughts. "The young will rise stronger with part of you in them. This is how we honor our saviors." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then, yes, I accept." The queen bowed her head slightly, a sign of great respect. Then she turned to the wall and a part of it opened like a flower blooming. Inside was a small chamber, round and bright. Soft music played from unseen places. "Please," she said. "Rest. You are part of the hive now." Ethan walked inside. The chamber smelled of clean air and sweet energy. A floating machine buzzed softly nearby. It would collect the DNA sample painlessly during rest. He lay down on the soft surface and closed his eyes. For the first time in days, he felt no fear, no worry, only peace. Back in the queen's chamber, the glowing pillar now showed a new memory. Ethan standing in the nursery holding the purifier, saving the eggs. His image was now part of their story, and in the tunnels outside, the hive was already changing. Worker drones moved again. Walls rebuilt. Eggs glowed brighter. Songs returned. The human had given them a second chance. Ethan woke up in the soft round chamber. The light above him was dim and peaceful. His body felt rested. His thoughts were calm. The machine beside him gave a soft beep and floated away. It had finished taking the DNA sample while he slept. The process had been gentle, just like the Queen said. No pain, no fear, just peace. He sat up slowly and stretched. The air smelled fresh, like morning rain. As he stepped out of the chamber, he saw 2 worker drones waiting. They looked different now, brighter, cleaner. Their armor plates had been polished, and their eyes glowed softly. When they saw him, they lowered their heads in greeting. Ethan gave a small wave. "Good morning, I guess." The workers turned and began walking. Ethan followed them through the tunnels. Everywhere he looked, the hive was alive again. Drones climbed the walls, ceiling cracks. Others carried small glowing tools and repaired broken vents. Small crawler units ran along the floor, planting tiny root bulbs to help refresh the air. The hive had been dying before, but now it was full of purpose. And all of them paused when Ethan walked by. Some tilted their heads. Others stopped their work to look at him. Their minds whispered soft greetings into his thoughts. He is the one. He saved the nursery. He gave life. Ethan didn't know how to respond. He wasn't used to being the center of attention. He was just a repair tech, a regular guy. But now, in the eyes of the Zeral hive, he was something greater. The workers led him back to the Queen's chamber. She was standing beside the glowing memory pillar, which now showed a new image, an egg glowing with a small light inside. When Ethan stepped in, the Queen turned toward him. Her body moved with strength again. Her silver wings opened slightly, and her voice filled his mind like a warm breeze. "You rested well?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, thank you." She motioned to the memory pillar. "The young ones begin to change. Your gift has been accepted." He looked at the image. Inside the egg was something new, something not fully Zeral, not fully human, but something between, not in body but in mind, intelligence, courage, balance. Ethan swallowed hard. "That's amazing." The Queen stepped forward. "It is rare for outsiders to leave a mark on the hive. But you are no longer just a visitor. You are part of our story." Ethan smiled a little. "I'm honored." He paused for a moment. Then he asked, "What happens now?" The Queen looked at the tunnel behind her. "Now, you must decide." Ethan tilted his head. "Decide? You have a place with us if you wish. You may stay and help guide the new ones. Or if your heart calls you home, you may leave. We will not stop you." Ethan didn't answer right away. He looked around the chamber. The warmth, the soft hum of life, the workers, the songs in the walls. He thought of Earth, of the crowded cities, the cold machines, the noise. There he was just one man in a huge system. No one would notice if he left. But here, he mattered. Still, he needed to know something. He looked into the Queen's eyes. "If I go, will I be welcome again?" She stepped forward and touched his arm gently, always. "The hive remembers its protectors. You may return whenever you wish." He nodded. "Then I want to help more. For now, maybe teach the workers how to build stronger filters, or show your drones how to scan for danger, signs faster." The Queen bowed her head slightly. "Then stay. Teach. Walk among us, human." The days that followed were busy. Ethan worked side by side with the Zeral drones. He taught them how to build better sealant foam using human compounds. He helped install stronger purifiers in deeper tunnels. He even created a small school chamber, where the young drones could learn using both human and Zeral tools. He called it the Learning Circle. The Queen watched with pride. Ethan also explored parts of the hive no human had ever seen. The garden chambers, where glowing plants grew, in silence. The energy rooms where crystal hearts pulsed with hive light. He even visited the chamber of old queens, statues carved into the walls, memories stored in silent crystals. He was not just a visitor anymore. He was hive-trusted. The younger drones followed him with curiosity. They asked questions, some by sound, others by thought. Why do humans walk on two legs? What is music? Can you teach us stories? Ethan laughed often. He told them about Earth, about the stars, about books and rain and dogs, and slowly, a new bridge formed, one made of trust, knowledge, and friendship. One evening, as Ethan walked through the nursery, he noticed something strange. A small drone, barely hatched, was drawing shapes on the floor. The shapes looked like Earth letters. He knelt down beside the drone. "Where did you learn this?" he asked softly. The drone looked up. Its eyes sparkled. It tilted its head. "From the light. From you." Ethan's heart skipped. He looked closer. The letters spelled friend. Tears filled his eyes. He smiled. Later that night, the Queen invited him back to the glowing pillar. She showed him a new memory, this time of the future. It showed young drones working with humans. It showed ships flying with Zeral and Earth flags together. It showed peace, hope. Ethan looked at her. "You see this happening?" She nodded. "With your help?" "Yes." And deep in his heart, Ethan believed it too. The hive was no longer just an alien place. It was his second home. Ethan stood at the edge of a wide balcony carved from crystal stone. From there, he could see the heart of the hive, glowing bright and alive. Thousands of lights shimmered like stars on the ceiling, and soft hums filled the air like music. The nursery had grown. New chambers had opened. The young drones had hatched safely. It was a new beginning. Behind him, the Queen stepped forward. Her wings shimmered in the soft light. She no longer moved with weakness. Her posture was tall and proud. Her hive was healing. "The time has come," she said, her voice flowing gently through Ethan's thoughts. He turned to her. "Time for what?" She looked toward the center of the hive, where a large, round platform stood. Drones of every kind were gathering around it. Workers, soldiers, engineers, even newly hatched young. "They are waiting for you," the Queen said. "You are the honored one." Ethan blinked. "Me?" She nodded. "The hive remembers. You came in a time of darkness. You brought life. You brought change." He swallowed hard. "I'm not a hero. I just did what was right." "That is why you are remembered," she replied. Ethan slowly walked with the Queen toward the platform. The crowd was silent as they approached. Drones stepped aside to make way. Even the smallest younglings tilted their heads in respect. When Ethan stepped onto the platform, he saw something in the center, a glowing crystal orb hovering slightly above a carved pedestal. It pulsed gently with a white light. "What is that?" he asked softly. The Queen spoke, her voice clear in the minds of all who listened. "This is the heartstone. It holds the memory of the hive. It accepts only those who are part of us." She turned to Ethan. "Place your hand upon it." Ethan looked at the orb. He took a slow breath and stepped forward. As his hand touched the smooth surface, the orb flared with light. Images rushed into his mind. Memories of the hive, of the Queen's story, of the nursery, the toxic gas, the moment he saved the eggs. He saw it all again, but from the hive's view. He saw how they felt fear, then hope, then trust. Then something new happened. The orb showed future visions, not just the dreams of the Queen, but possibilities. He saw Zeral drones walking on Earth, human scientists working beside alien engineers, children of both species learning. Together, he saw unity. The orb dimmed slowly, and Ethan stepped back. The hive erupted in a soft hum, a harmony of voices and thoughts. They were singing without words. They were honoring him. The Queen raised her arms and spoke again. "From this moment, Ethan of Earth is part of the hive, not by blood, not by bond, but by choice. He is the hive friend, the builder of peace." Drones all around him bowed their heads. A group of younglings stepped forward and handed him a cloth-like robe, silver and soft. He placed it over his shoulders. It shimmered in the light. Ethan smiled, though his eyes were wet. He didn't expect this. He didn't want reward. But this was family. That evening, the Queen invited Ethan to the highest tower of the hive. It was open to the sky, where stars shined down. The wind was cool but not cold. He could breathe easily now. The air was clean, pure. They sat together, watching the stars. "Will you return to Earth?" the Queen asked. Ethan looked up at the night sky. "Maybe. For a time. You are free to go. You have no bond. But you will always be welcome." He nodded. "I want to tell my people what I found here. Maybe show them what peace can look like." "Some may not believe," the Queen warned. Ethan smiled. "Then I'll show them. I'll bring proof." They were silent for a while. Then Ethan said, "Do you think our kinds can truly live side by side?" The Queen thought for a moment. "Your DNA now flows through the next generation. Already they are curious. They want to learn. They dream. That is the first step." Ethan nodded. "And maybe some humans need to see that aliens are not enemies." "Yes," she said. "Let them see." He stood up and looked toward the path that led out of the hive, his journey back to his shuttle. It was time. He turned to the Queen and gave a slight bow. "Thank you," he said softly. She bowed in return. "Go in peace, Ethan of Earth. You carry the hopes of two worlds." 2 weeks later, Ethan stood at a spaceport on Earth. His shuttle was dusty, scratched and patched with Zeral tools, but it still worked. News of his survival had shocked the world. He stood before a group of scientists, leaders, and curious reporters. "This is a crystal from the Zeral hive," he said, holding up a glowing memory stone. "It holds their history, and mine. They're not our enemies. They're builders just like us." Some people looked doubtful, but many listened. He showed them the recordings, the toxic gas, the rescue, the egg pods, the Queen's message of peace. And slowly, minds began to change. Months passed, then a year. Ethan returned to the Zeral hive many times. Other humans began visiting too, carefully, respectfully. The Queen welcomed them. She taught them. They learned to walk softly, to listen. Ethan built a research station near the edge of the hive. He called it the Bridge. It was a place for humans and Zeral to meet, share, grow. Inside the nursery, young drones with curious eyes learned Earth languages. Some even painted shapes like letters on the walls. One day, a young drone named Nala asked Ethan, "Can I visit Earth one day?" He smiled wide. "Yes, I'll take you there myself." The hive had once been a place of silence, fear, and fading life. Now it echoed with learning, laughter, and hope, because one human had chosen to help, because one queen had chosen to trust, because two very different beings had met and chosen to believe in each other.